everyone, and welcome to VMblog's coverage of the VeeamON 2024 event taking place at the Diplomat Beach Resort in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And today, we're excited to once again be speaking with Anthony Cusimano, the Technical Marketing Director at Object First. Anthony, we were just chatting about it a second ago, but it's been about a year, so it's good to have you back on the show.
It's always great to be back on the show. I joined the meeting and I saw you guys' faces. I'm like, yes, we're doing another one of these. It's always fun.
Nice. For folks who maybe didn't see the last one, or just to learn a little bit more, can you give a quick overview of Object First?
Absolutely can do. Object First is now, it's over a year old since last we spoke. So we had our first birthday, February 14th of this year. It is a company that was founded by Ratmir, Timashev, and Andrei Baronov, same founders as Veeam. And their goal and mission was to create a ransomware-proof storage target explicitly built for Veeam backup and recovery. And our mission is just to be the best storage for Veeam.
And for people that are going to be at the VeeamON event that's coming up, what do you think the attendees are going to be most interested in learning about your company's technology?
So I think for the folks attending the event, it's always a mixed bag, right? You have your Veeam power users, your folks who might have just inherited Veeam and this is their first VeeamON event. It's always a mixed bag of expertise. So what we really want to get across is, not just that our booth says best storage for Veeam and we wear it proudly. That would be a little too hubris of us. We really want to show them, one, that we've created something that is truly purpose-built for Veeam. The same way that they've had to become comfortable with Veeam, we spent all of our time ensuring that our product is completely optimized to enrich their experience, make it more secure, make it easier and simpler to use, and also, decrease their RPOs, RTOs, and bring them the power they need when it comes to primary backup storage targets.
Let's talk about that technology a bit more, and maybe if you could tell viewers who are watching this what makes Object First unique in the market, and what are your differentiators?
Absolutely. So Object First is the name of the company, and our product is called Ootbi. If that's not a unique name, I don't know what is, but it's not just fun to say. It actually stands for out-of-the-box immutability. And once you unpack that right up front, you're getting one of the most unique differentiators in our product, which is it is object storage purpose-built for Veeam that is immutable by default. So when you rack and stack our Ootbi appliance, it's a 2U form factor into your data center, and you power it on, you go through the configuration. When you create your buckets for your Veeam storage, they'll be immutable by default, which is very unique, right? Most vendors don't do that because once immutable storage is written, it cannot be unwritten. Because we're a backup-only target and our whole focus is delivering ransomware-proof backup storage experience, it kind of changed the onus on what we were delivering to ensure that from the get-go, you have that immutable storage. When your data lands there, it can be unchangeable for the entire period of immutability that you set within Veeam. And I'll show you how we do all of that in the demo later. But right off the cuff, that is a hugely unique thing for us. We're not serving any other backup vendors. We're not doing anything else with our storage. You can't just start dumping videos in there and make it a video repository. It's purpose-built for backup, specifically for Veeam. And I would say the other big unique differentiator, differentiator we have is the fact that it is so focused on security. We've actually reduced and limited in mass a lot of the features that you would typically get with a storage box. For example, our admins are only administrator in name only. We have what's called a zero access device, which means there's zero access to root, the backend, the operating system. The only thing you get access to is a little textual user interface, which allows you to configure the box, but you can't factory reset it. You can't go in as an admin and change your immutability window. Once it is set, it cannot be unset. By limiting that level of privilege, what that does is it reduces the potential for insider attack and breaches to occur. No one has access to your box, not even us, which is what you want when it comes to your backup storage, knowing that ransomware targets the backups first now. So from a security perspective, we've really oriented this entire device to just do the one thing it does really well, and to also ensure that nothing else can stop it from doing that job.
Now, obviously, Veeam has a very tight relationship with Veeam, having Ratmir being part of your company. Um, how do you guys fit into the Veeam ecosystem, and what does your partnership look like?
People probably assume off the cuff just because Ratmir and Andrei, we have some insider scoop, and that's really untrue. We are a Veeam technical partner, just like everyone else. We have to go through the same challenges, struggles, and hurdles, and it's equal playing field. It really is. We don't have any advantages beyond the fact that we have two incredibly smart founders helping back the decisions we make and helping kind of guide us down those paths of running a business and building a product, which they are so experienced with. But truly, we do the same exact things every other vendor does. And I think that's fair, right? Like we're not trying to cheat codes our way to being the best storage. We're doing it naturally just by building good product, by listening to customer feedback, by keeping tabs on what Veeam is doing. I think that's really the biggest thing from us is when we talk to Veeam, whether it's through their resellers, their partners, or direct to their teams, we want to know what's Veeam building next, because that helps us focus on continuing to deliver towards that target, ensuring we stay up to date with all of their latest features and functionality, and ensuring that we're still solving their customers' needs, because every Veeam customer is an Object First customer.
Now, last year, Brian and I had a great time visiting with you and the team at VeeamON at your booth. This year, can you maybe give us a sneak peek? What can folks expect to find at your booth this year?
This year, it's going to be different. So last year, we had some fun games in our booth. This year, we've leveled up. So it's not just video games. I will be in booth multiple times a day running trivia. So if you swing by, I think it's every couple of hours, we'll be doing a trivia session where I'll be asking the audience 10 questions. The one who gets the most questions right wins a Lego Luke Skywalker land speeder. And it's not one of the dinky little ones. It's a big land speeder. We're giving away 6 of these things throughout the conference. So be sure to come by and hit us up for trivia. We're also going to be running demos all day throughout the booth, or throughout the day at the booth. And we've also got a couple different speaking sessions. So, we've got one in the theater. We've got one panel with Jason Garbus, author of Zero Trust Data Resilience. There's lots of opportunities to engage with us at the event. But, selfishly, come visit me in the booth and play some trivia. And if you mention that you saw this, I'll slide an answer or two your way.
Now that your company has just celebrated its 1-year anniversary, can you tell me what are some of the challenges that your customers are facing going into 2024, and what are you guys doing to solve those problems?
So I just got back from the RSA security conference last week. And let me tell you, that conference was eye-opening for me because we know the challenges of the backup admin just because a lot of us came from Veeam or we have previous experience in backup world. Security and backup are becoming almost a family affair now. They are quickly merging together, and more we're seeing that backup and backup storage and the security of those devices is becoming the security admin's problem or the GSO's problem as well. So moving into 2024, 2025, I think the big thing that everyone's going to have to be cognizant of is my backup strategy secure? Is it ransomware-proof or is it ransomware resilient to a point? Do I have a recovery strategy? Have I tested it and actually ensured that if we're hit, yeah, I can recover, but is it going to take 3 weeks? Is it going to take 3 months? What does that look like? Figuring out those plans and working with the GSO, it's almost like learning a new language. We've spent so much time in data management and understanding how to do data management really well that we haven't really flexed those muscles when it comes to ensuring things like cybersecurity, cyber resiliency. And it truly is a different language, as I experienced last week. It was drinking from the fire hose. So if I'm going through that in my role, I can't imagine what the backup admins are going through. And that's just another reason why I think we so prioritize the focus on ensuring our Ootbi device is secure by default. It's not one more thing you have to learn amongst the numerous other things that are probably falling into your lap over the next year or two.
Well, Anthony, this has been great eye-opening information. Maybe if you could give us a demo for the folks who either they may still be going, but a little preview, but for folks who can't attend VeeamON, maybe they can take a look here at this video and this demo and get a better insight into the company and its technology.
So what you're seeing right here is our dashboard. So once you've rack and stacked Ootbi in your environment, you'll actually go through a very quick textual user interface configuration. I won't bore you with that. It's literally type in 2 IP addresses and a password, and then a progress bar happens for about a minute. Once you've gone through that, it will give you your endpoint IP, which you'll type into a web browser, and then you'll land on the real Ootbi experience. Now, right at the gate, you'll see this might look pretty familiar if you've used any kind of web UI before. We've really tried to make sure that every single part of managing this is as simple as humanly possible. So even on the landing page, you only see what you need to see. How much storage is being used? That's the first thing, top left corner that your eyes are drawn to. You get a little bit of information about your cluster, and if you scroll down, you get your performance, what's been going on inside of Ootbi lately. Now, on first configuration, you'll actually get a nice little wizard that would walk you through the entire setup process. And I will imitate the wizard for you right now. It will say, go create an S3 key. You'll click this tab. You will click create key. Let me get rid of this little fill-in thing. You type in a new key name and you'll hit OK, and it will spit out a key that looks just like one of these. Now, super simple. All we've had to do so far is just type in a name and hit enter, and it's given us our access key and secret access key. We're going to use that later when it comes to Veeam. Once you've done this, the wizard will say, well, go create your S3 bucket. So we go in here, we click create a bucket, and again, we type in a name and we'll hit enter. Now, I'll draw your attention to this. Again, like I mentioned in our conversation before, versioning is enabled by default. This, again, is just one more step we're taking. Object lock is always enabled. If you turn on versioning, that means that this bucket will be immutable, and it will forever be immutable. You can't turn it off once it's turned on. So this is how you create that ransomware-proof storage bucket, and all you have to do is just type in a name. Once you've done that, 2 steps now. We've typed in 2 names, we've hit OK twice. You're done. You never have to touch Ootbi again, technically. I mean, I guess for updates you will, but that's the entire configuration process of our box. Probably the simplest storage product you'll ever interface with. Now, here you can see in our demo environment, we've got quite a few buckets going on, and I'm going to draw your attention to, let's see, it's on the next page. We've got so many of these. Our SEs are very busy doing these demos. This ransomware-proof bucket, this is the one that we'll kind of keep tabs on for the rest of the demo. But just let's take a peek here. We got some data being used in there. All good. We'll go back to the dashboard, and I'm actually going to pop over to Veeam Backup and Replication. So in here, let's say that you hadn't configured Ootbi yet, we would go to backup infrastructure. And in backup infrastructure, we're going to go to our backup repositories. Now, if we hadn't added anything before, we would just click add repository. But in this case, I'm going to use one that's pre-configured just because it's already set up and good to go. And we're going to click our immutable bucket. Let me look at its properties here. First thing you would do is give it a name and a description. You click next. Now in this screen, had we not configured it before, you would type in the service point. That's the same address as the web UI that we've logged into. You would add your security keys. That's those S3 keys we created in the previous screen. We make it super easy to copy paste it over, add it directly to your clipboard. Connection mode is direct. That means we're taking advantage of Veeam version 12's SOS API, the direct-to-object storage feature, which increases the speed and readability of S3 data that is going into Ootbi. We'll click next. It's going to make sure that it can communicate with Ootbi. And here is the most important screen in the entire demo. So right now we're targeting that bucket ransomware proof that I showed you in the UI just a moment ago. You'll create a folder inside of the bucket. Veeam needs that to be able to write its data. So they've called the folder immutable backups. And here you can see the make recent backups immutable for, and it's grayed out and it's checked. You can't uncheck that, one, because it's immutable and we don't want you to be able to uncheck that. But let's say you're a hacker and you could, or let's say you managed to break Veeam and you actually were able to disable this, or you set the time down to 1 day. Well, the good news is on our side, inside of Ootbi, because that data was written and it was written with a 14-day immutability window, we're going to preserve the entirety of that backup chain for 14 days, regardless of whether or not you were able to break Veeam or change the time. And even if you did change the time, that would only change it for the new backups being written to the device, not the existing ones. If you expanded the time, added more days of immutability, that would also apply to any backups that happen after the current set had been written. So all of this is post. None of it happens to the existing data. It's just one more way that we help Veeam users ensure that their backup data is uncorruptible in any case. So we'll just pop this back down to 14. And then the rest of this is actually super simple. If you've ever created a backup repository before, you've seen it all. You just give it your mount server, you go through a review, it's going to take a look at everything and make sure it's all good to go. And that's it. You click apply, and the new bucket would be added into Veeam. Now, adding the bucket is one thing, but getting data written to it, that's something entirely different. So let's go back home. And for everyone who's used Veeam before, I'm sure this is nothing new, but it is worth showing just how we write data to Ootbi. Let's look at our backup jobs. And we're going to look at our core servers immutable. And let's take a look here at its properties. So if you set up a backup job before, again, this is all standard stuff. You give it a name. You're going to select what you want to back up. In this case, we've got some virtual machines and we're collecting them by tag. And here, our backup proxy automatically selected. If you want to run your own backup proxies, that's also perfectly fine. All that really differentiates between this job and every other job you've ever run before is the backup repository. In this case, we're going to that immutable bucket you just saw, that immutable backup repository that we configured within Veeam, which is targeting our ransomware-proof bucket. So we could select other Ootbi buckets, but in this case, we're going to this one. And we're setting a retention policy of 30 days. Now, if you're wondering, well, what if the retention policy is less than 14 days? Because that's our immutability window. Again, you would be able to delete that data if it wasn't immutable, but because it's kept immutable for that 14-day window, it doesn't really matter if your retention policy is less than. It will hang around regardless. And that's it. In this case, I do believe we have a secondary target going offsite, and that's the job. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel here, and we can go ahead and kick this job off. Let's just activate a full and run that right now. And while it runs, I'm actually going to come back into Object First and talk a little bit about the box itself, because I think running a job is the perfect time to actually look at what's going on under the hood. So if we come into our nodes view here, we have one single node configured inside of our Ootbi cluster. And it is technically a cluster, even though it is a cluster of one. It's important to note that because adding additional nodes is super easy because the cluster is configured upon first configuration. So we have one node, and right now we're not using nearly as much data as we could. If we look at networking, we can actually see exactly what's going on from a data transfer perspective. So right now, Veeam's writing to it. It's getting ready to send a lot of data. That's why it's just small bytes right now. It's doing that initial communication. 2 10 gig NICs is what's handling this data throughput. We also support SFP+, if that's your network flavor of choice. You have those options upon configuration. And lastly, and I think most interestingly, is our disk configuration. So inside of this view, you can see all of our disks, 11 of which are spinning disks, HDDs, one of which has 0 data moving through. Now, this is a RAID 6 configuration. So if we lost a disk, you would be able to quickly put in this hot spare into its place and nothing would happen. We support up to the loss of 2 disks. And let's say you did have a disk failure, you put in your hot spare, we would mail you a new disk in under 24 hours. So you would not be without your hot spare just in case. So that's just one more way that we're ensuring redundancy at all costs. Now, down here is our 1.6 terabyte NVMe cache. This works in tandem with our 2 10 gig NICs. It receives all of the data coming over that SOS API through Veeam, and it lands on the cache first. This acts as our buffer, which then disseminates the objects we received to the RAID 6 cluster and just gives us that speed of 1 gigabyte per second per node. Everything in Ootbi scales linearly. So if we had 2 nodes, we get 2 gigabytes per second, 3 nodes, 3, 4 nodes, 4, and we support up to 4 nodes today. The same is true for capacity. Every node you add, you get a flat rate increase. So with 128 to 4 nodes, you're rocking 4x that 128 capacity. And at the very bottom here, you can see our two OS disks, which are in a mirror RAID array, and they're just running our operating system and proprietary object storage code. You can see some data is being written here, and that's just because Veeam's doing its job, or it's starting to at least. It looks like it's doing a lot of processing, which is totally fine. But that is essentially how we work. Everything else is just as simple. If you needed to do any kind of additional configuration, like setting up your notifications or maybe doing an update, all of that is just as simple as the rest of the process. And that's our goal, is to truly just be the most secure, simple, and powerful storage that is purpose-built for Veeam.
Well, thanks for that great demo. Where can people go if they want to find out more information about Object First and some of the stuff you share with us today?
Yeah, the best place to go is our website. It's objectfirst.com. Highly recommend it because there's lots of different paths you can go down. If you're interested in the company, our homepage has all the information I've talked about and more. If you want to learn more about Ootbi, which you just saw in that demo, the product page is the way to go. And if I could also recommend checking out our YouTube page, it's YouTube at Object First. We have so many videos, just like the demo you saw, with a lot more detail, spends a lot more time talking about all those individual features and functionality. It is a great place to learn more about what we're doing. You'll see more of me and my colleagues just being excited and talking about everything Object First and Ootbi.
Well, thanks for sharing with us, and we look forward to seeing you at VeeamON 2024.
Look forward to seeing you there.